Growing up in a devout Christian household, my life was centered around faith, prayer, and church activities. Everything I did revolved around the teachings of Christianity. And I never questioned the norms that had been ingrained in me since childhood. It was only later in life, as I began to explore the world outside of my religious bubble, that I came to realize just how abnormal some of my past behaviors and beliefs were. In this video, I'll share 10 things I did as a Christian that, upon reflection, I now see as not normal. Number 1. Praying for every little thing. As a devout Christian, I used to pray for everything, from finding my lost homework to getting a good parking spot. It was like having a direct hotline to God for even the smallest of concerns. Looking back, I realized that constantly seeking divine intervention for trivial matters hindered my ability to take responsibility for my own life. Number 2. Guilt over natural human desires. Growing up, I was taught that many of my natural human desires were sinful. Feelings of attraction, curiosity, and even ambition were often accompanied by guilt. Suppressing these feelings and labeling them as wrong left me feeling emotionally stunted and conflicted. Growing up, I was conditioned to believe that many of the natural instinctive desires and emotions I experienced were inherently sinful or morally wrong. This created a sense of conflict within me, as the things that seemed normal and human, such as feeling attracted to others, being curious about the world, or pursuing personal goals and ambitions, were often met with judgment or guilt. For instance, feelings of attraction, which are a fundamental part of human nature, were often portrayed as impure or shameful. As a result, I began to internalize the belief that there was something wrong with experiencing such emotions. Similarly, curiosity, whether it was about new ideas, different cultures, or even just exploring my own identity, was sometimes seen as rebellious or dangerous, which made me suppress my desire to explore and learn more about the world. Ambition, too, was often framed in a negative light. Striving for success, seeking recognition, or wanting to excel was sometimes associated with pride, selfishness, or vanity. Instead of celebrating personal achievements or growth, I was left with a sense of guilt whenever I tried to assert myself or pursue goals beyond the status quo. This constant suppression of my natural feelings left me emotionally conflicted and unsure of myself. On one hand, these desires felt deeply ingrained and essential to who I was, but on the other, I was led to believe they were inappropriate or sinful. Over time, this created emotional and psychological tension, as I struggled to reconcile my true self with the expectations placed upon me. As a result, I often felt stunted in my emotional growth, unable to fully embrace or express who I truly was. Number 3. Fear of hell. One of the most powerful tools used in many Christian denominations is the fear of hell. I lived in constant fear of eternal damnation, always worried that my actions might lead me to a fiery afterlife. This fear-based control mechanism is psychologically damaging and far from normal. The fear of hell is often used as a control mechanism in certain Christian denominations, instilling anxiety about eternal punishment in believers. The concept of hell, depicted as a place of fiery torment and separation from God, is emphasized to encourage adherence to religious rules and morality. This tactic taps into a primal fear of suffering and the unknown, making people constantly second-guess their behavior, thoughts, and beliefs. For many, like you mentioned, this fear becomes overwhelming and deeply ingrained, shaping their worldview and behavior in unhealthy ways. They may live in a state of constant guilt, worrying that minor actions or thoughts could doom them to eternal damnation. This creates a cycle of fear-based compliance, where people obey religious teachings not out of genuine belief or love, but out of sheer terror of what might happen after death. Psychologically, this can be damaging. Constant fear of hell can lead to anxiety, depression, and feelings of worthlessness, as people feel they can never live up to the impossible standards of perfection. Over time, this fear can erode one's mental health, leaving individuals feeling trapped, powerless, and burdened by guilt. While religious traditions can offer comfort, community, and a sense of purpose, the fear of hell, when used as a tool of control, shifts that focus to punishment and fear rather than love, grace, or spiritual growth. Number 4. Judgment of others. As a Christian, I often found myself silently judging others who didn't share my faith or lived different lifestyles. I believed that my way was the only right way. And this narrow-mindedness prevented me from truly understanding and appreciating the diversity of humanity. As a Christian, I used to judge others, especially those who didn't share my beliefs or lived in ways that seemed contrary to my faith. I saw my own way of life as the only correct path, and often viewed other people's choices through a lens of moral superiority. This mindset created a barrier between me and those who were different, whether they practiced another religion, had differing values, or simply lived in a way that didn't align with my understanding of faith. This kind of thinking not only isolated me from others, but also prevented me from fully embracing the diversity of human experiences. I missed out on understanding the beauty in different cultures, perspectives, and ways of life. Instead of seeing people as unique individuals with their own stories and struggles, I reduced them to stereotypes based on their beliefs or behaviors. This narrow-mindedness kept me from learning and growing, both spiritually and personally, as I was too focused on being right rather than being compassionate, empathetic, and open-hearted. It took time and reflection to realize that this judgmental attitude was limiting my ability to truly live out the core teachings of love, humility, and understanding that Christianity calls for. I began to see that faith is not about imposing my beliefs on others, but about living with grace, accepting others as they are, and recognizing that each person's journey is unique. Through this shift in perspective, I learned to appreciate the richness of human diversity and the many ways people seek meaning and purpose in their lives. Number 5, suppressing critical thinking. Critical thinking was discouraged within my Christian community. Doubts were seen as a lack of faith, and questioning religious teachings was discouraged. It took me years to realize that critical thinking is an essential part of personal growth and intellectual development. Number 6, blind faith in church leaders. I used to unquestionably trust and follow the directives of church leaders. I now understand the danger of putting too much faith in fallible human beings and the potential for manipulation and abuse that can arise from such blind devotion. Number 7, belief in faith healing. I was raised to believe that faith could heal physical and emotional ailments. I witnessed people withholding medical treatment in favor of prayer alone. This misguided belief can have dire consequences and is far from normal in a world where science and medicine offer effective treatments. Number 8, fear of accepting LGBTQ+ identities. For years, I held prejudiced beliefs against LGBTQ+ individuals, believing it was incompatible with my faith. It wasn't until I opened my heart and mind that I realized the importance of accepting and supporting the diverse identities and orientations within our society. Number 9, isolation from non-Christian friends. I used to limit my social circle to only include fellow Christians, fearing that interactions with non-believers might lead me astray. This isolation hindered my ability to connect with people from different backgrounds and learn from their experiences. Number 10, viewing non-Christians as lost souls. Perhaps the most troubling aspect of my past beliefs was viewing non-Christians as lost souls who needed saving. This judgmental attitude prevented me from forming genuine connections with people outside my faith and hindered my ability to appreciate the inherent worth of every individual. Conclusion. In retrospect, my journey from devout Christianity to a more open and accepting worldview has been filled with self-discovery and growth. While I respect everyone's right to their beliefs, it's essential to recognize the aspects of my past beliefs and behaviors that were not normal or healthy. Embracing empathy, critical thinking, and a more inclusive perspective has allowed me to become a more compassionate and understanding individual. I hope that sharing my experiences will encourage others to question their own beliefs and foster a more open and accepting world for all.